Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome into the box seats here on latenightsportsradio.com. Here with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan. We're on latenightsportsradio.com. Alex, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. Doing pretty good. You know, second radio show in the last few minutes. So, for those that weren't listening earlier, I was on the Bob Sullivan show. After you had a great interview with Ashley Ward of Auburn football fame.
Yeah, I was telling you this between shows that I usually get people after or before they hit their peak. Like I think you have a rising, or what is it in books? It's like the beginning, the rising action, climax, the falling. I think I got you during your rising action.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I would say I'm like an E-list celebrity at very best. So I don't know.
I guess at least I can say that neither one of us is climaxing right now. That would not be good for two guys on a show. But
that's true.
Okay. But as far as all right, so this week we did not do a show last week. We missed last week. You had a couple tweets, Facebook posts, a little grumpy about how things went for you. What happened? What went wrong last week?
If there was 1 week for us to not have a show, last week was certainly the best week to miss. I went 1-9 on the entire weekend in college and pro football. These are things that happen, not often. I can count on one hand still the number of days where I've had just days where I wanted to break everything in my apartment, losing all the games that I had money on this week. And a couple of them were bad bets. A couple of them were bad beats. I had a wonderful Friday night, which was non-sports related at all. And then Saturday hits, and I'm watching a couple of the early games, and I'm like, okay, I had Nevada plus 5.5 against Purdue. They're covering easily. Late touchdown, front door cover for Purdue. Wins the game outright. Just blowout city with East Carolina. Then you get later into the night, UNLV, 14.5-point favorite. They lose in overtime to Idaho, a team that's getting ready to drop down to 1AA. Sunday rolls around, games aren't even close. I had Arizona Cardinals. They didn't show up at all until it was too late against Buffalo. Tampa Bay and LA, the Rams looked good in a spot that they shouldn't have been even remotely hanging on to. And then I had the total in the Oakland Tennessee game, weren't nearly even close to 47 points. So it was just a bad weekend. And thankfully, we did not give those picks out to anyone listening. My clients are all getting free weeks as a result of it. And so, you can't, these things happen. You have to shake them off, trust in your numbers and research and move forward. That's the moral of that story.
The one I got right, I went 1-2 this weekend. The one I got right was the Bills and Cardinals. I took the Bills. The problem I needed, I didn't have you last week, so I didn't have anybody to kind of go off of. So I went to Cousin Sal, and Cousin Sal gave out the Broncos, gave out the Bengals to beat the Broncos, which was going well initially, and then a couple of turnovers and crap that happened. Trevor Siemian being able to throw football.
Yeah.
Went well. And then the other one was Tampa Bay win by 6 over the Rams, and that did not go well either. So that I went 1-2 with Cousin Sal. Didn't lose. I didn't go broke, but as far as that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Like I could say, like, oh, I hate Cousin Sal, but I like Cousin Sal. I think he has, he's an entertaining guy. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
He's one of my secondary people to go to if I need some gambling advice. I tried that; it didn't work. I'm not gonna get pissed off. Did anybody get pissed off at you this week? Is the question.
No one on Twitter. Twitter was relatively calm and quiet, which is fascinating because I get a lot of random grief on Twitter, and it's usually never from clients. I rarely have angry clients, especially nowadays. I have some incredible clients. I've had clients for a long time now that never, they understand the ebb and flow of the business, and I never hear a bad word from them. But I get a lot of people who just don't generally like people in my business. The sports handicapping business gets a bad rap. People believe that we're snake oil salesmen and that we're underhanded and we're telling people to bet opposites and things of that nature. And I've never done any of that. I don't I'm not if I went to scam somebody, I'd be in a much different business than sports gambling. Let me tell you that. I'd probably be in Wall Street actually. So, but that being said, no, I didn't have a whole lot of people angry at me. And to bring up what you said because the whole Cousin Sal thing on ESPN. At first I thought I didn't really like that angle of Cousin Sal, and that was strictly because of the fact that with sports gambling growing as much as it is, and the serious angle that ESPN decided to take on fantasy football, I thought they could have done something to give a little more credence and a little more respect to the sports gambling aspect and point spreads and totals. And so by bringing in Cousin Sal, I thought they made a bit of a mockery of it. But you have to look at this. Cousin Sal actually did very well a lot of weeks last season.
He does.
You know,
He like I. That's why I went to I was not thinking like, oh, Cousin Sal's a complete. He's funny, but like for the most part, like his best picks are usually dead on.
yeah,
And I mean, I don't, you know, some of these guys that like these handicap like if he's not even a handicapper, but the thing is like Cousin Sal, he has a thing on Facebook that he does now. It's like a 5-minute thing where he tells you a prop bet and then three good bets to do. So I did that, but the funny thing is like all these people, you're not one of them, but these people who don't have websites, who don't actually gamble, and who
yeah,
don't actually do anything other than just put out a something like, oh, here are all my picks with the spreads and against the spread and whatnot. It's like you don't even like. Who cares? Like you're not. There's nothing on the line for you. So what does it matter? Why am I taking into account what what your record is on the year, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent? You're not putting money on it. So why should I take your like? If you're actually putting money on it,
yeah.
I feel like I'm more likely to take your advice into consideration. And I'm definitely going to take your advice into consideration because there's something on the line for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, you have people who their just their reputation itself is on the line. I can't afford to be somebody to go 1-9 every week. People listen to me on this show. People listen to me on shows across the country now, and so that alone. But the fact that yes, I'm risking my own bankroll. I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to be able to get a crab cakes and steak for the next couple of days because of having a 1-9 record. If I keep doing that, I'll be looking for a new place to live. This is what I do for a living. It's not a joke. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, you got people who, and that's fine. Larry King's a good example. Apparently, Larry King, and he apparently has the bankroll to back it up, but he's hit something around 78% in his lifetime when he has gone to Vegas and gambled. We've seen Floyd Mayweather's Twitter tickets of $5 million on a game, and most of the time he usually wins. We don't see his losers, but we know Floyd Mayweather has oodles of money to gamble with and can back up any winner or loser. And there's nothing wrong with giving your opinion out on a game if you watch sports. That's how we all started. I didn't start just gambling and betting games. I used to help my uncle in his NFL pool in the office. He worked in a big time office in downtown Chicago. $100 pool per person. And I was helping him pick his games. He had a winning year for 2 years in a row. And, that's where I caught the gambling bug. But I wasn't betting all of my games right away. And only as I got older that I started, and then at one point I was on the other side of the counter as a bookmaker in high school, and so I even had more risk because I'm taking in these wages and I had to lay off with other people, and so yeah, you can listen to any opinion you want. I mean, you can listen to Chris Berman, the Swami. I mean, he's been giving out picks for 30 something years, but makes a difference when money's involved. Real money is up at hand.
All right, so let's get into stuff that happened this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, bad stuff happened to both of us as far as how we bet, because we didn't talk to each other. But what happened this weekend that caught your eye, college and NFL? As far as a team that caught your eye, a team that caught your eye in the negative way.
Well, all right, we'll start with the NFL. And the interesting thing with the NFL is that we always know what you see one week can be the complete opposite the next. We know this. We've known this time and time again. But then there's some teams that you can just always rely on where the more things change, the more things stay the same. The Cleveland Browns, just looking awful down the stretch, missing that field goal, going into overtime, losing to the Dolphins. The Bears in a complete state of disarray. They almost end up getting the backdoor cover in the last couple plays of the game, which was a really funny moment. And
Brian Hoyer almost getting Jay Cutler to not have his starting job back.
Yeah, almost. I mean, I
as pathetic as that game was, he might have gotten the starting job.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, because he looked so bad during the preseason. I was hoping, I thought he was actually going to get. If Connor Shaw hadn't broke his leg in that third preseason game against hosting Kansas City, I really believe Hoyer gets cut, and it's Connor Shaw now that would be playing for the Bears as starting quarterback.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. It's not Jimmy Clausen. I mean, really, anything's better than Jimmy Clausen or that.
David Fales was the guy they drafted from San Jose State.
Who was the guy that backed up Cutler for a couple of years? That was awful, and I think he came into the NFC Championship game when Cutler got injured.
Oh, that was Caleb Haney.
Yeah, that guy was.
Yeah, he literally had one good quarter in his entire career, and it was in a regular season game. I want to say it was a game where Cutler broke his thumb against the Chargers, and Haney threw, I think, a touchdown pass and got a few first downs. They ended up winning that game, and then I think it went haywire from him. I think the last team he was with was maybe Cleveland or Kansas City at one point. He just kind of faded away. I think he's out of football now. So
yeah. All right. So what caught your eye in college football well, I guess you were still saying about.
Oh well, no, just saying, yeah, just the way, the way, the more things change, the more things stay the same. I was talking about the Browns. The Bears looked horrible. You look at the Detroit Lions, who were getting smoked, and then the Packers took the foot off the gas. Lions almost came back, but they still lose that game. Now 1-24 straight up the last 25 games in Lambeau Field. So I don't think we're going to see another Lions win in Lambeau as long as Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback in Green Bay. But there's a lot of teams that are in disarray right now. A lot of crazy injuries. Again, 2 weeks in, Russell Wilson's out. The breaking news that they're saying J.J. Watt could be done for the season. He might go on injured reserve as early as tomorrow morning. It's huge now. And now we get into this time of year where we should be seeing lines pop up automatically. But now you've got all these injuries. There's no definite line right now for Seattle and the Jets. New England and Buffalo, obviously, we see where Jacoby Brissett's banged up on top of Garoppolo. Brady's not coming back till next week, so there's no real definite line there in New England. We won't see those pop up probably until tomorrow, maybe Thursday. So it's what should be kind of a repetition and looking at certain numbers and kind of going off modern trends at this point. We can't really do that because there's a lot of different things that we're seeing in the NFL. Going into college ball, it's a bit of the same, but you expect a lot of injuries in college. At least I do. I expect more key injuries to happen in college football in a given season than I do in the NFL. And that's, you see more guys plugged in different places, especially quarterbacks and running backs and so forth. But there's some really shocking things that happened as far as coaching changes. Les Miles at LSU, I'm not shocked that he was fired at any point this season. But do you think he's still fired Monday morning if that call doesn't get overturned, if that snap went off in time for them to win against Auburn? I don't know if you talked about this with Ashley on your show.
I did.
Okay. And so I'm curious to know what you guys thought of that, because I think he has his job at least another week or two.
What was it?
If that play goes off.
What was the game? 1912.
It was 19 because it was going to be 1918, so it ended up being 1813 or something like that.
Well, either way,
Yeah.
I think that game the game goes to overtime if they score there,
Mhm.
and then make the extra point. I think. Either way, I don't think he loses his job, but I think his next loss, either way, cost him his job.
Yeah.
And it was, it's so stupid. LSU, it's so dumb. Like, why, the Ed Orgeron thing, I'm surprised they gave him the leeway to just be like, oh, yeah, Cam Cameron, you're done. Like, Ed Orgeron, I do think Ed Orgeron is a good guy to have be like an interim coach.
Yeah.
Because everybody seems to like him. You're not going to have to play any meaningful games when he's coaching. And he's in a good spot as a coach because, as far as what he did at Ole Miss, he didn't do well at Ole Miss. No. He did well with USC when he was the interim coach, and he's a hell of a recruiter. That's why anybody brings him on, and players like him. However, when he goes into that interim role, the players like him. Everybody's like, oh, well, we should just, all the fans like him. He's a nice guy. They want to hire him. But I think he does well when there's no pressure. Like, there's no, like at USC was it after Sarkisian or was it after? It was after Lane Kiffin got fired.
Kiffin, yeah. They left Kiffin at the rumor is that they left Lane Kiffin at the airport in Tucson after the loss against Arizona State.
Yeah, if you fire a guy that everybody hates, and you're following the guy that everybody hates, and I'm not sure everybody hates Les Miles, but I don't think there's a lot of love for Les Miles either.
Yeah, not like it used to be.
Yeah, and so you're following another. I mean, Ed Orgeron, he's the great unknown. It's like, well, why wouldn't you hire this guy? Everybody loves him, but I don't think you necessarily want that guy running your program. He's a good behind the scenes guy to have. But at the end of the day, he's not going to win you any championships. And honestly, if you're an LSU fan, I think before Saban got there, they hadn't won a national title since, like 69 or 68 or something.
The 59 team was the last one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometime before, integration was allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Michigan before before they won the title in 97. It's like you can't really count any, college football titles, before integration was allowed. And with as far as LSU goes, I just think they are. I know they've won 2 titles in the last 12 years. But I think they're beyond delusional to think that, yes, they get a lot of good talent, but I just don't think it's good talent. But I think it's overrated talent. Honestly, it's kind of like Texas. Okay, it's not even like Texas. Okay, Texas's secondary talent is so good. Louisiana's, I think their top talent is really good. Their secondary talent is not as good, in my opinion. I think like Texas, like if Nebraska was still in the Big 12 and there was still pulling kids out of Texas that were not recruited by Texas, not recruited by Oklahoma, they'd be in a really good spot, with their recruits. I just feel like I feel like Louisiana gets too much credit just because it's in the SEC as far as talent goes, and secondary talent is not very good. And the overall talent in Louisiana, I don't think is as good as in Texas or Alabama or Mississippi.
Sure, I agree with you on that. And my thought process and what I've been hearing people talking about who should come in next for LSU. And this is the plan that I think would work perfectly because you mentioned Louisiana, they get all the top talent from Louisiana. They really don't have to compete with anybody within the state. The most they have to compete with is schools, other SEC schools, the Arkansas, the Floridas, the Alabamas of the world. If you have a guy who runs a tight defense in Ed Orgeron, we've seen how the defense has fallen apart of sorts, and the recruiting of good defensive talent has fallen apart of sorts in Southern Cal since Orgeron left. The issue clearly with LSU is offense, and that was why Miles and Cameron are gone. So what on the rise head coach right now runs arguably one of the better offenses in the country, but doesn't run a defense well? And what top Power 5 named coach does not have a job right now that could properly run a high-octane offense, use the quality recruiting staff that he would have on deck, and be able to turn the entire SEC upside down? Any clue on those answers?
No.
It would be Cliff Kingsbury of Texas Tech and the formerly departed Art Briles at Baylor. You put those two guys in with Orgeron, you have a power trio that is nothing like anything. The only thing that comes close to it in mind would be Alabama's coaching staff. And we know Lane Kiffin might be gone out of a job. He might be going somewhere and going back to a head coaching job next year.
What about a scumbag like Petrino?
I don't see Petrino leaving where he is right now. He's got a really good spot. I mean, why would he jump and leave right now?
He is in a good spot, but that guy, he's always looking for the next best thing.
He's got the next best thing right now. I mean, there's he's in the catbird seat right now in a spot where other guys would be clamoring to get to where he is. You look at where
they're not going to win the national title though.
You think if they don't take care of Clemson this week that they won't be in the spot to win a title?
But I think they would. Well, I think if they win this week, I think they'll lose.
Okay, but right now they win this week.
That sounds great. Okay, call me crazy. I think if they win this week against Clemson, I think they lose. What if? Alex?
Bobo,
Yeah.
Bobo, you cut out pretty
Alex?
good
Yeah, yeah.
Keith?
Bob.
Sorry, Alex.
Yep. You guys clip it out. I hear you guys.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yep.
Keith,
Can you hear us, Bob?
am I still here?
Oh my God.
Yep.
I'm going to call him back right now.
Okay.
Just get him back. Try to get a new connection. It's the internet in Omaha, you know.
All right. Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yep. We can hear you a little bit.
Bob, can you hear?
All right. Can you hear me a little bit, or?
Yep. You're good here.
Jesus, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, you're good now.
All right. We're all good.
Okay. All righty.
See, that's what happened. I mentioned Art Briles getting a job, and then all of a sudden everything gets cut off again.
Go figure.
But
yeah, Title IX really cut off our show.
But my point is this: is that you need something new and fresh and innovative in LSU, and the ground and pound system that the Southeastern Conference has tried to hold on to dearly for dear life, claws deep into running the football and melting the clock. It's not Power 5 football. It's not any form of college football anymore. It just isn't. Even Auburn has had to, or Alabama rather, has had to go and play up-tempo football. It means if Alabama and Michigan are playing up-tempo football, guess what? Everybody in the country needs to be playing up-tempo football. That's just the bottom line. And LSU's got to conform and comply with that standard, and they might as well go out and get two of the best guys to run up-tempo football, Cliff Kingsbury and Art Briles, in my opinion. We see them, and have seen them run quality up-tempo football and in Browse's case, running a decent defense. Cliff Kingsbury clearly knows nothing about the other side of the football. We know that if you watch a Texas Tech game, we'll talk more about that in our best bets as well. But offensive minded, he is, and I think he'd be able to. And he's a great recruiter like Orgeron. Those are guys that can bring in guys from Texas, keep the guys in Louisiana, and they can build the talent to compete with the big wigs in the SEC and across the country.
Okay, what caught your eye as far as lines go this week in NFL? And what was something? Was there anything that surprised you, disappointed you, or what were your numbers in comparison to what came out?
There was a lot of tight numbers as far as the lines go nowadays, and we're going to see that from here on out because now we're getting into conference play. Adjusting power rankings. I've had to do a lot of adjusting, obviously, with power rankings in the last 72 plus hours, but especially with coaching changes and injuries of that sort. But one of the big things that did stick out to me was the marquee matchup with Louisville and Clemson. We saw Clemson open as a 2.5-point favorite, and I was stunned by that. I thought, based on where these two teams are at, that this game would open as pick'em because both teams are going to draw a ton of money. I was able to grab Louisville -1 because that 2.5 didn't stick around. It really the truest opening number that you saw that most people were able to get down on wherever they were in the country or in the world offshore was at pick'em. So Louisville now up to 2, still some 1.5s at a couple of spots, but I was able to get -1. And I'm high on this Louisville team. They have an offense that simply just can't be contained. I mean, they decimated a Florida State team that, yes, they had a couple of key injuries on defense. And we saw Ole Miss pick apart Florida State's defense in the beginning of the year. But Louisville took it to a whole nother level. It's not so much – they don't have the biggest offensive lineman in the country up front, but they have the most talented quarterback. They've got a stable of wide receivers that run their routes very well. You can have all the speed in the world. It doesn't matter if you can sprint down the field 100 yards, but not throwing the ball down in the end zone every play. Watch how Louisville's receiving core, the crispness of the routes that they run, that adds to Jackson's ability to find open guys, complete passes, and when he's completing passes, that opens up the field wide enough for his speed and his running ability, which is on point with just about any running quarterback we've seen in the last 20 years. Even Michael Vick said it himself. He believes this kid's better than he was at Virginia Tech in his days. This Louisville team's clicking on all cylinders. Clemson has the speed and talent to match. They haven't been playing that fast, and they just don't really have that offensive prowess to trade shots with Louisville like they would have said last year against the Louisville team.
Well, and Clemson looks a little complacent.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's in the NFL, I guess you can't say complacency is fine, but you have 16 games to kind of figure it out. And just to make the playoffs. I mean, like you look at the Seahawks, there's complacency that's set in. Like they even made the playoff. They made the Super Bowl. The year they lost to the Patriots, they looked a little complacent after they had just won, which is understandable. But you look at Clemson. I mean, you get complacent for one game and you lose it, you're done. And I feel like with Louisville and I mean, Petrino is. I know a lot of women and people are not going to like this, but Petrino is the man. Like the guy is a really good coach. The guy knows his stuff. He's not like when he did well at Western Kentucky, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
he did it in a year. He's a scumbag. He's a sleaze, but he is a damn good coach. And honestly, Dabo Swinney, I feel like he's a it's the same old story with Clemson. It's like it's not a matter of if they're going to lose; it's a matter of when they're going to lose their big game, or drop one to a team that they shouldn't. And they always used to drop their big games to Florida State. I feel like they're going to drop this big one to Louisville. I feel like Swinney. Yeah, they got to the national championship last year, but I feel like that was just kind of a glint in the eye. I just don't feel like Clemson really. They got Deshaun Watson, but they lost a lot on defense. I think this team is highly overrated, and I think they'll lose multiple games. This being one of them.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree with that fully. Like I said, I'm on Louisville high in this game, and it was a standard bet for me. Like I said, the key was to jump in on it because I knew this line would move up, and it'll more than likely move back down toward kickoff. So if you do like Louisville, I say wait until probably Friday, maybe even early Saturday. This line will move back. I believe this line will close at Pick'em. So, there's some variance between obviously two going each way, and you never want to tease a college football game. It's just not as profitable for wagers in the NFL, but this is definitely a game that I like. It's a big matchup, and I really think the Cardinals. They're going to be able to. This is their second footnote game, and this will be the game to really get them in the conversation of being in the college football playoff down the road.
I mean that first one. I don't know how. Like, I'm kind of surprised that they people didn't overreact. Like, there shouldn't have been an overreaction. I feel like the reaction would have been just if they had gone to number 1 or number 2 with Ohio State being number 2 and Alabama being 3 or 2 or something like that. I mean, I don't care what you think of Florida State, but being a 63-20 win over Florida State, I feel like that is, as a number 10 team, you're owed something as far as being number 1 or number 2 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no question that you're one of the top 2 teams in the country. And Alabama, I think I like their quarterback. I like Saban. I like their defense, but and I think they'll wind up finishing off the SEC at some point. But I don't think they'll do it without a loss. And and that's not going to keep them out of the playoff. But I think they're going to have a blemish on their record, and there's not going to be. They're going to make it strictly because they're from the SEC, but the question is, who gets screwed? A one-loss Pac-12 team or Houston if they go undefeated?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing too.
Okay. Who do you say? Let's say Houston beats Louisville, but Louisville beats Clemson and Florida State. Who do you keep out of the playoff in that situation? Because you beat 2 top 5 teams, but you lose to another top 5 team. Who do you keep out, and who do you let in? Because Houston does the same thing. They beat 2 top 5 teams, but they don't play another top 25 team, basically.
But I think it would come down to, championship weekend, because you got ACC. More than likely, Louisville will be playing for the ACC title. And you've got Houston that would be playing in the AAC title. Obviously, Houston's not going to be playing a ranked team, or at least a high ranked team in their conference title, where Louisville just might. Louisville could be playing. If I'm not mistaken, would they be? They are in the Coastal or the Atlantic Division. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on what division they're in the ACC.
See, this is going to sound bad, but I have no idea. The ACC is the one that it seems like it changes every year. And I mean, it's kind of like the Big Ten. Like, it's not a consistent conference.
Yeah, the ACC. Okay, so they are in the Atlantic. So they would be beating Clemson, Florida State. So they would either be playing most likely Miami or North Carolina, and for the conference title. And it'll be interesting too, because of what happened in Carolina. That game's not being played in Charlotte. That ACC title game will be somewhere else that we don't know yet. My guess is that it would be played, if not in Atlanta, it would probably be in perhaps Orlando. I've heard a couple other rumblings. I've heard possibly Nashville. So that takes away. That'll be a huge thing if it's Louisville, North Carolina. That game, losing that game on the in a different city. But Houston, like I said, they won't be. Houston's not gonna. I don't think they're gonna make it through undefeated before Louisville. We've seen them get caught up in games. Ironically enough, they're playing Friday night against a UConn team that beat them last year and spoiled their party. I don't think they're the team that beat them this year, but we've seen Houston get tripped up in a game going into the spot. I think Houston, if they lose a game at any point, they're done. Louisville, they lose here, they still have some legs because they can get to the conference title game, and if they still beat a Miami or North Carolina, then they're in. So Louisville, Houston could end up being a bit of a wash possibly, but if they're still undefeated going into each other, Houston wins, but Louisville still has these other wins. I think Louisville will still be able to, unfortunately, just the way Power 5 works, they'll be able to leap over the Cougars.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into our best bets for the weekend. Okay. We need this. We need a good weekend.
Yeah, let's do this. Yes, we do.
I'm going to go best bet, my good bet.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Florida covering at Vanderbilt. They got an 8.5-point spread. I know Del Rio, they're coming off a bad loss. They go up 21-0, lose to Tennessee. You got Vanderbilt, who is a continual just is pommel horse an appropriate term, or is
they're a doormat basically?
Doormat.
Yeah.
Okay, doormat for SEC East teams. Pretty much all SEC teams. The reason why they're still in the SEC boggles my mind, but I'm going to say Florida. Now it's up to 10. I still say they cover that. I'm going to go Florida to cover 10-point spread on Vanderbilt. Stomp them. McElwain wants points, wants to score. They don't do that all the time. Vanderbilt's a perfect team to do that against. That's my good bet. Alex, what's your good bet for the week?
My good bet, I'm looking at Northwestern and Iowa. This is going to be a horrible game to watch.
Yes, this is going to be awful.
I don't think I'll be watching this game unless I'm not watching another 11 a.m. game. And it's right now. I only have the one play I only have in college football right now, which I'll talk about in my better bet. Is Louisville, but my good bet right now is Northwestern and Iowa. This total opened at 41, and it's been played up at 43 and a half, with good reason. Northwestern's run defense virtually non-existent at times. Iowa loves to run the football a lot, and their team likes to get up and down the field. Northwestern just hasn't been good on the road. And Iowa, looking for another big win. Iowa's got a chance to really make some noise once again in their division. I think that total, even at 43.5, moving up, and I think following the money is a good option there. I like that game going over that total. I mean, you get a couple of defensive touchdowns out of the way, and that total just becomes more and more attainable. And I've made some money catching these low Big Ten totals falling a bit lower, and you got a game up going to overtime, and all of a sudden you've cashed easily. So I like that over 43, call it 43.5 over the total in Northwestern Iowa in the morning.
Okay, I have a question. What is the reason why the point total for Patriots Buffalo is off the books?
Well, that because
they don't know who New England's going to start.
Right, New England doesn't know. Yeah, they don't know who they're going to start for New England. And Tyrod Taylor at one point was originally listed as questionable, but he's going to play obviously. But so you have two quarterbacks banged up. New England. If they're going to run with Brissett or Garoppolo. They're talking about signing T.J. Yates. But that hasn't happened as of now.
They're going to sign Peyton Manning.
I saw a meme about that recently, and I don't think that'll happen. But New England's got to do something, at least if it's 1 week. Their system's well enough to where they can plug and play. People are saying, could they get Matt Castle? There's got to be somebody who was around from one of the old regimes under Belichick that could at least play 1 week of football under this offense and be manageable enough to lead against the Buffalo defense that, yes, they looked sharp last week against Arizona, but Buffalo's defense still has some major issues to deal with. So that's why there's no line or total yet. We won't see that pop up probably until Thursday for the Patriots and Bills.
Okay. All right. Well, then I was not going to pick that as I just was asking. Mm-hmm. Okay. I do like the total in Indianapolis, Jacksonville in London to go the under. And the reason I say that is, one, Indy is not, neither one of these teams is good. Jacksonville, probably, if there's an 0-3 team, I would say Jacksonville is probably the one to kind of dig itself enough out of the rut that it doesn't get a good draft pick but not make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
As stupid as that sounds, but my better bet is going to be a 49.5 total going under in London. 9:30 a.m. game here in the States, Eastern time. Don't think this works out well for either one of them. I think this is like a 22-20 game, something along those lines. That 22-20, the math adds up, and I'm going to say the under. What is your better bet for the week?
It's interesting because you mentioned that, and I'm looking at the totals. There's the numbers. Jacksonville has played. This will be their fourth straight year of playing in London. I don't really know what England did to the United States to deserve having the Jacksonville Jaguars show up to Wembley Stadium for four consecutive
lost the Revolutionary War. That's what happened.
It's got to be more of a trickle down than even that. I mean, this is brutal. I apologize to. I have some good friends that live in East London. I apologize to them every year for this, but with that being said, Jacksonville's used to this trip. They won last year. They finally won a game last year. They lost the two previous meetings before. They beat Buffalo 34-31 last year in what was known as the Yahoo game. That was the only way you could watch this game was on Yahoo. And I think this game will be on TV. I'm not sure. I won't be up early enough to see it. But
and honestly, who really cares?
Yeah, but it's interesting though. Jacksonville catching points. They're catching points in a neutral site. You think about Arkansas playing some of their games in Little Rock, or how we've seen Alabama play a bunch of games in Jerry's World over the last couple of years. This is kind of their neutral second home, if you will, over the years. Jacksonville plus 2.5 might not be the worst thing in the world. That's not my better bet, but that's something to maybe keep an eye on if that number comes. We see more Indianapolis money come in. I might take a shot with the Jags. But my better bet.
Okay, I want to just say this. That is a great comparison. The neutral site Jaguars game is London. That's almost like Navy's neutral site game being Ireland versus Notre Dame.
Right. I mean, think about it.
That's so how great it is.
There's probably more Jaguar jerseys and scarves in London than there would be for any other team that played over there, because of the fact they played there more often. So you never know. You never know if the fans get a little more hyped up for them, especially if the game goes second half and it's close enough. So who knows? But my better bet, I'm gonna go back into the college ranks, and it's the only game I have money on as of right now. It's Louisville. Right now they're laying 2 points. But like I said, just wait a little bit. The money's going to come back on the Tigers. A lot of people, this is going to get two-way action. The books are salivating with this matchup because they're going to get money both ways. And so I think Louisville, I do like them at 2, but I'd rather get them at 1 or pick. But based on what we talked about, Clemson is complacent. They aren't playing with the same intensity and tenacity that we saw last year, while Louisville, they're clicking on all cylinders. They're riding on a high, and they have the talent to back up and match up with anybody in this country. I think Louisville, I don't think it's going to be as ugly as the beatdown they gave Florida State, but I do think they'll do enough to win this game convincingly, enough to where they'll be able to cover this number. And that's my better bet.
My best bet, Arizona going back home, 8-point favorites against LA. I feel like it's teasing me to pick Arizona, to think like, oh, well, what is Arizona? Are they 1-2?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wait,
they should technically be 2-1. So
wait, who is?
Because their opening game, they miss. If Cannizzaro hits the field goal against New England opening week, they win that game. They're 2-1. So
okay. All right, fair enough. All right, so I will say this: Arizona's going back home, 1-2. Carson Palmer had one of the worst weeks that Carson Palmer's had since Carson Palmer had that bad week against the Carolina Panthers in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
That many months ago, but not that many games ago.
Right.
I'm going to say my best bet, Los Angeles Rams cover this spread. As you know, the Rams are not a good team. And I hate Jeff Fisher, and I hope to God that he gets the all-time losses record. But he will get the loss in this game, just not by more than 8 points. I think, the Rams are always good at sneaking in a touchdown here and there, or sneaking in a field goal when it doesn't matter, or sneaking in points when it doesn't matter. And I think this is going to be a relatively low-scoring game. Rams cover this spread. That's my best bet for the week. 8-point spread, the second biggest this week. And I'll double down. I'll say best bets of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Take Washington to cover the 8.5-point spread against Cleveland. Because Cleveland is horrible. Washington didn't play, has not played well, but I think they got a little bit of confidence, and with how bad Cleveland is, I think they cover an 8.5-point spread. So double down on that one, as gutsy as that sounds, or stupid, either way. What is your best bet for the week, Alex? I might have left you speechless with that double down.
No, I like that. I mean, I definitely like Cleveland, Washington. That's a tough spot. Cleveland's just a bad team. This is a hard team to back. Washington, coming off of a tough emotional game against the Giants. So be interested to see how the Redskins do in that spot. So that's a game. I appreciate your read on that, and I see where you're going with that game. It's one I personally would stay away from, but I see the logic behind it. My best bet Sunday NFL game, later game. I'm gonna go Denver and Tampa Bay over. I want to say it's at 44 now. It's dropped down a little bit. Open at 44.5, so it's around that number. I don't think it'll drop down a bit too much. We know about Tampa Bay's offense. Very good. Jameis Winston's coming into his own. They won't have Doug Martin back, but they've got Sims. They've got some decent wide receivers. They're going up against a tough Denver defense. Not as tough as ferocious as recent. We saw Denver pick up some huge yards. Trevor Siemian finally coming into his own. He's getting more and more comfortable in the role of being a starting quarterback, using his options, and he gashed up a subpar defense. But he's also looked fairly, he was at least average and managed the game well against a good defense opening night against Carolina. Tampa Bay is not Carolina as far as they are on defense. So 44 points, not a whole lot. I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth through the air in this game. Denver can run the ball as well. I think we're going to see a lot of points scored. So I like that game over the total is my best bet. That might end up being a personal play of mine on Sunday afternoon as well.
All right. Well, Alex, on that note, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at AXSmithSports. I've been talking a lot about not just college and pro football, but we've got hockey coming up in less than a couple of weeks. Preseason games have been starting over the last couple of nights now that whole World Cup thing is coming to an end. We've got real hockey starting now. And I teased it at the end of your show, but I'll talk about it now. AXSmithSports.com. You go right now. You can get my NHL season point totals report. This is the only time I ever do. I talk about how much I dislike over-unders and wins in the NFL. And so these are the only preseason bets I do for virtually any sport. And I researched these, and I've done very well with these. I hit 3 best bets last year and cashed them nicely. Got 3 best bets on the report this year, 7 plays in total. And I might add a couple of more over the next couple of days that'll be attached to it. You can get it right now for $20. If you buy it now, you'll still get the additional plays sent to you via email. I also have a early bird package for those who want just my NHL picks throughout the year only for $599. That's a fantastic deal you won't find on any other website. That's only at AXSmithSports.com. So, Bob, we heard your show tonight, and it was a great show, and it was nice of you to have me on your show. What are your plans possibly? What are you doing on Johnny Babo this week, and what will you be doing possibly for next week?
Johnny Babo, I'm not sure what's going on this week. Next Tuesday, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to guilt trip some of the people that said no this week into So that'll be my surprise. But Alex, I do have a but you can follow me on Twitter at Bob Sullivan Show. Alex, I do have a question as far as the your over unders as far as picks go, and actually my big question is, how is it possible to have a World Cup where continents are facing countries? I don't understand that.
Yeah, see, I mean, this is
thing. Why was Russia even in this thing? I didn't even
Russia. Yeah. Russia was in. They ended up getting knocked out, and you have. Yeah, here's the thing.
This should have been Eurasia versus Europe versus Sweden versus whoever. That should have been the way it went.
They could have done that, but the reason for having the Team Europe and Team North America was this. It was mostly inspired by the Team North America. Team North America was a collaboration, obviously, between the U.S. and Canada. There were no representatives from Mexico, so it was the U.S. and Canada that sent their best under 23 players. Yeah. Because there's so many. You look at how talented those two countries are, obviously, and they've got a lot of young guys, especially Canada. So they wanted to use this as, like I said, the whole thing is basically a breeding ground for future Olympic teams. And like I said, it was a money grab by ESPN, kind of their way of rubbing it in people's faces, saying, hey, we do care about hockey, even though they really don't. Count how many times they actually lead off SportsCenter with a hockey highlight starting in October all the way through to June, and you'll be able to count it on less than two hands. So with that being said, that's why you had the Team Europe. It was the same idea. Guys who played for countries like Slovakia and Switzerland and France, that obviously their full teams weren't good enough to compete in the tournament, but they blend them together, and you have Team Europe, who I believe lost tonight 3-1 to Team Canada in Game 1 of that best of 3 final. So we're almost done with that, thankfully. And like I said, we can get to real hockey, which starts October 12th.
I will say this: the only thing that's good about this is the bringing back of ESPN's hockey song.
Yeah, the music, the great music that it's actually a fun fact. Whenever the ESPN Las Vegas guys call me to do a show, that is the ringtone that rings on my cell phone whenever they call. So yes, I do. I will always be a fan of the hockey night. It was the hockey night in Canada, but the Wednesday with the old Wednesday night hockey theme originally that ESPN had.
Well, let's also not forget that you're on in 93.7, is it?
That's right, 93.7 The Ticket with Brett Kane and Bach show. I went 6-0-1 a couple weeks ago, and they were really high about that and kept praising it. And I'm pretty sure last week I went like 1-6. So I'm gonna hear it from the Peanut Gallery that tweets and texts in there. But I loved it. Doing that show with those guys. Those are great guys, really fun to be on that show. You can hear me on Friday at 3:30 Central. That's at theticketfm.com or in the Nebraska area, the Lincoln area, 93.7 The Ticket with Brett Kane and Bach.
Yeah, definitely listen to that. Whether it's podcast, anything it may be, Brett Kane is great. Was awesome on Michael Gray's show. Awesome here in Omaha as a producer for a couple of radio shows on 590 AM on ESPN Radio here in Omaha. So definitely listen to that show, podcast it, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. And on that note, we will see you next week here on the Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan.